People often imagine Britain as a place of order, logic, and dignified traditions. A land where everything has a rule, and every rule has a reason. But history tells a different story. Hidden behind the polished image of the British Empire lies a maze of strange, unsettling, and sometimes unbelievable laws, rules that shaped the lives of its people in ways that feel almost unreal today. And yet, every one of them existed, written in official books, enforced by real officers, and feared by ordinary families who lived under their shadow. Most of these laws were not created out of malice, but out of desperation, superstition, or the peculiar sense of order that guided the British mind centuries ago. Some protected the monarchy. Some tried to control the behavior of citizens. Some aimed to preserve public morality. And some. No one truly understands why they were written at all. But each one leaves behind a strange echo of a Britain that feels familiar and foreign at the same time. Imagine a world where eating a mince pie on Christmas was a punishable act. A world where knights were legally required by the crown to practice archery every Sunday. A world where handling a salmon suspiciously could make you a criminal, where dying inside the Houses of Parliament was a violation, and where refusing to kneel during certain announcements could ruin your entire reputation. These are not myths or exaggerated legends. They were real laws, signed, sealed, and enforced in the name of order. To understand why such rules existed, we must step into the mindset of Britain's earlier centuries, times marked by plague, political fear, religious tension, strict class divisions, and the constant need to maintain control. Laws were not only about justice, they were about keeping society predictable, structured, and obedient. Even if it meant punishing the absurd. But strange laws were not reserved for ordinary people alone. Many targeted the aristocracy, the clergy, merchants, and even animals. Yes, in some periods, animals could be placed on trial, and sometimes sentenced, to maintain what authorities believed was moral balance. And while these laws may sound amusing to us today, they were lived realities for the people who walked British streets long before our time. As we move through these forgotten rules, remember, each law is a window. A window into fear, into control, into belief, and into the quiet strangeness of human society. These 20 laws are more than curiosities, they are fragments of a Britain that has vanished, leaving behind only the faint outline of a world that operated under a very different logic. Take, for example, the law that made it illegal to wear armor inside the Palace of Westminster. At first glance it seems amusing, as if Britain feared an army of knights bursting into Parliament. But the truth is darker. The law was born during a period when political tensions ran so high that nobles would attend parliamentary debates fully armed, ready for conflict. What appears to us as theater was, at the time, a very real threat. The ban was not simply about etiquette, it was about preventing bloodshed in the center of government. And then there was the strange requirement that every male over the age of 14 practice longbow archery on Sundays. This law remained on the books for centuries. It wasn't designed as a hobby or a sport. It was a national defense strategy. Britain relied heavily on its archers, and neglecting practice was considered almost unpatriotic. Even as the weapon became outdated, the law lingered, forgotten by most, but never fully erased. Another law forbade the beating of carpets and rugs in the streets of London, except for doormats, which could be shaken before 8 in the morning. While humorous, it reveals the struggle of a rapidly growing city drowning in dust, soot, and disease. Public cleanliness was a matter of survival, not aesthetics. Laws like this were attempts, sometimes desperate, to keep order in a city that often felt on the brink of chaos. One of the most famously absurd laws was the Salmon Act of 1986, which made it illegal to handle salmon in suspicious circumstances. And yet, when placed in context, even this strangeness makes a kind of sense. The law was designed to fight illegal fishing and black market trading. The wording was intentionally vague so officers could prosecute smuggling even without direct evidence. It is a reminder that behind every odd rule lies a very human fear, of theft, corruption, or the collapse of order. Then there were laws controlled by superstition. For centuries it was illegal to engage in witchcraft, consult spirits, or attempt divination. But these laws often targeted the vulnerable, women, healers, the elderly, or simply those who lived alone or behaved strangely. Many suffered accusation simply because neighbors feared what they did not understand. The law, in these cases, became a tool not of justice, but of fear. And some laws targeted morality itself. In certain periods it was illegal to celebrate Christmas in ways considered excessive or ungodly. Eating mince pies on Christmas was banned under Puritan rule, not because of the food itself, but because the ruling powers believed celebration led to sin, laziness, and chaos. In their minds, restricting joy was a way to maintain discipline. As strange as these laws seem today, they formed the invisible structure that shaped everyday life. A British citizen in earlier centuries lived within a web of expectations, some logical, some oppressive, some simply absurd. But all of them reveal a society desperate to maintain control, order, and predictability in a world that often felt uncertain. But perhaps the most revealing laws were those that blurred the line between order and absurdity. Consider the rule that made it illegal to die inside the Houses of Parliament, a law rooted not in practicality, but in bureaucracy. Those who died within its walls were technically entitled to a state funeral, placing unexpected burdens on the crown. Rather than addressing the deeper issue, lawmakers simply tried to prevent the situation through legislation. It is a perfect example of Britain's tendency to write its way out of uncomfortable realities. Equally strange was the law requiring that all beached whales and sturgeons became property of the monarch. Known as royal fish, these creatures were more than symbols, they were considered valuable resources, representing wealth, rarity, and status. To control them was to control prestige. Yet the idea that a fisherman could unintentionally break royal law by hauling in the wrong catch reveals how deeply the monarchy extended into the everyday lives of its people. There were also rules guiding public behavior in ways that now seem almost theatrical. In certain eras, it was illegal to refuse to kneel during specific announcements or ceremonies involving the crown. Kneeling was not merely a gesture of respect, it was a public declaration of loyalty. Refusing, even out of personal conviction or injury, could brand a person a dissenter. These laws shaped social life, forcing every individual to participate in a choreography of obedience. And then, there were laws that targeted silence. In some regions, it was illegal to allow chimneys to smoke excessively, not because of pollution concerns, but because heavy smoke signaled laziness, a homeowner who failed to tend his fire properly. Order was maintained through judgment, shame, and the idea that appearance reflected morality. Even the simplest acts, like tending a hearth, were governed from above. The final and perhaps most haunting truth is that many of these laws never fully disappeared. They were forgotten, buried in dusty legal books, or simply ignored as society progressed. But they remain, silent reminders of a Britain that lived with fear, superstition, and rigid control. A Britain that believed law could shape morality, behavior, and even fate itself. When we look back at these 20 laws, from the ban on Christmas celebrations to the obligation of archery practice, from the suspicious handling of salmon to the prohibition on dying in Parliament, we glimpse a world both alien and strangely familiar. A world where order was everything. Where the crown's shadow stretched into every home, every street, every ordinary life. These laws are echoes of a past that still shapes Britain in ways we do not always see. If you would like more forgotten stories, strange laws, and hidden pieces of British history, make sure to subscribe to Old Britain's Secrets and leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice helps keep these stories alive.